Hi everyone, it's Rena. So this video is if one of you has a sun in Scorpio and one has a sun in Virgo. Both of these signs are feminine signs and they are compatible in terms of the angle that they represent, which is called a sextile. It's 60 degrees apart. Of course, you'll have to look at your individual charts to see if it's an official sextile, but both of these signs are feminine signs. You have the water with Scorpio and the earth with Virgo, and they are compatible in that sense. Water, kind of moistens the earth and, kind of restores it, and earth can help to absorb extra water, which can symbolize the earth sign individual kind of being able to maybe make Scorpio less emotional and more detached. Scorpio people don't tend to wear their heart on their sleeve. They tend to be very secretive about emotions. And so it's not to say that they're going to be hysterical, that they're going to be running around, emoting left and right. There's kind of like this smoldering intensity with Scorpio, which is not surprising in a sense because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Mars is the ruler of Aries, which is a fire sign. So it's that warrior spirit. Pluto is the secretive part. I would say Mars is that. If you've ever seen the symbol of Mars, it's like this arrow. And it's really about a person's drive, their ambitions. Well, when I say ambitions, that can be Saturn, but I'm talking about what motivates people, what they put their energy into. And it can also be Mars itself in the chart can indicate how we express anger. I mean, there's a lot of things that Mars represents. But in terms of Scorpio, how it affects Scorpio is I think it can make Scorpio people have that passion in life. But the Pluto influence is more of the hidden stuff, the shadow. I think out of the two, Pluto is the one that becomes the destroyer, but it's also the alchemist, if you will, that is transforming the individual, which ultimately will lead to somebody who is improving themselves. But it's like walking through that fire. And Pluto being about power, this is one of the reasons why Scorpio respects power and also seeks to attain it themselves. Virgo is a completely different type of energy because it's ruled by Mercury, and Virgo is an earth sign, so it's not oriented towards the expression of emotions. And I can tell you that as somebody who has the moon in Virgo, and having, that kind of attitude myself, that doesn't mean that anybody who is a Virgo, if you're a sun in Virgo, you're a robot. It just means that you believe in being, I'm saying if you are a Virgo, that you would believe in constructive actions. And you might feel that emotions get in the way of being able to do that, that they are irrational, and that they can lead people to do things that make them stray from their goals and, get off track. So I feel like the Virgo person can help Scorpio people become, the Scorpio person become more rational. And this is not to say that the Scorpio person is just completely nuts and doesn't have any kind of reason, but Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so Virgo is analytical. And this is one of those things that I think is very helpful for water signs to start to question why they react emotionally rather than just kind of get into that habit of just reacting. And when they do that, they will see that there are connections that they're making that probably have to do with past experiences, traumas, and that they don't have to go there. They can see experiences as individual situations and not automatically get triggered, because that's really what triggering is. It's emotionally reacting to things because you're making a connection to the past. And it simply isn't true. Every situation that we experience is unique, even if it's happening from the same person with the same theme, but it's a different time, it's a different place. By place, I mean circumstance. So anyway, the Scorpio person can help the Virgo person maybe become more confident. That's an attribute that I would attribute to Scorpio having that Mars co-rulership, because Mars can be very confident and courageous. And Virgo tends to be a sign that is very perfectionistic, self-critical, critical of others, but that isn't really going to necessarily affect the person personally. I think that the tendency for Virgo people to maybe feel inhibited, self-conscious, it comes from that perfectionism. I made the mistake once of using the term shrinking violet to describe a Virgo person. It might have been Virgo rising, to be honest with you, but it doesn't matter. These can be interchangeable to some degree. And I got some very feisty feedback on that one. When I use a term like that, what I mean is that there are certain signs that are very extroverted, and they may be very confident in a boisterous kind of a way. The people that are, we all know people that are very extroverted and they just put themselves out there all the time. Some of those people may be insecure, but they talk a good game. They have a good facade. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are confident. Likewise, somebody who's timid is not necessarily a complete neurotic mess. They might actually have a core self that is, okay with who they are, is, like, in other words, that you accept yourself. There might be some of you Virgos who are like this, but you're not showy. So people will not see that or think that about you necessarily. But there's a good chance that you may have a lot of self-doubt, and Scorpio can help you to become more resolute in being able to just maintain a certain feeling about yourself and then project it outwards in that way. So, what could be kind of the dynamic between these two people? Well, you can, is it a given that the Scorpio person will dominate the Virgo person? First of all, you never want a relationship where one person is dominant. As somebody who's been in a very long-term relationship, I can tell you that I believe the best relationships are where you both play that role, where sometimes one person appears to be dominating and the other person kind of puts themselves in the subordinate position. And then other times, they become the one that is kind of running the show. It might be in a specific area of life where one person is more, is better suited to handle those affairs than the other individual. I do feel that in this type of relationship, the Virgo person is more likely to cave to the Scorpio person for many reasons. First of all, Virgo is a mutable sign, so it's in the nature of Virgo to bend to others. Scorpio, being a fixed sign, can be more stubborn or rigid. And so they may expect other people to conform to their wishes. Also, because of the co-rulership of Scorpio with Mars and Pluto, that can add to the way that Scorpio regards other people, which is basically that they want to appear invulnerable, Scorpio people. So this means that they can't ask for help. They can't, and this is another thing that Capricorn people do too, is not being able to ask for help. They can't show any signs that their feelings have been hurt or that they are afraid. They tend to, that's what invulnerability means to me, is the person who has to put up that good front. And what that is going to do is that's going to mean that the Virgo person may even buy into that and think that the Scorpio person, really just is superior in that sense. And even if this is the dynamic between the two of you, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with that, as long as the Virgo person is not always having to give in. Whenever you have one person that always gets their way and the other person always has to conform to that other person, that's an unfair relationship. And so that's, if there were those kind of dynamics, I would wager that the Virgo person was the one doing all of the cooperating, or whatever you want to call it. In terms of the attraction factor, I think that Virgo people give off a chaste appearance. Now, the rising sign is really going to hone in on more specifics, in terms of dress style and things like that. Even with sun signs, you can see that a person may dress a certain way because they respect the theme of their sun signs. With Scorpio, it's more of a gothic look, and it's not always, I know that there is a certain style called gothic, and some people have responded to me when I've talked about that with Scorpio. I'm not really talking about textbook cases, but just in general, wearing black, wearing dark colors or dramatic colors like maroon. which is kind of that blood red. I think that's such a cool color. Dramatic, And uh, even like I mentioned this with Scorpio rising, the blonde individual who dyes their hair black, which is not, the norm. Most people who are, brunettes who have dark hair, they're dyeing their hair blonde because that is deemed the most popular hair color that people want to have. But it's not like that anymore. It might have been like that in prior decades where that was a commonplace thing to do, but now you will see more and more people who are blondes who dye their hair black. I think this is kind of more commonplace these days. And the reason, if you think about why would somebody do that, is because they want to come across as more intense. In the past, I would say that blonde hair was associated with being carefree, being youthful. I don't know if that's true necessarily, but this, like for a woman, having sun-kissed hair, or maybe there are certain stars that are famous or were famous that had blonde hair that the person was trying to emulate. So in any case, when it's the opposite and somebody wants to dye their hair dark, it's because they want to come across more mysterious. We think of dark hair as being more mysterious and blonde hair being more fun. That's why they say blondes have more fun. So Scorpio isn't looking to have fun in a frivolous or a superficial way. Scorpio is all in. No matter what you're doing, you're all in. Or else you're all out. You don't care about it. There's an extreme quality of Scorpio that makes you either very into something or indifferent to it. For Virgo, there's just this desire to be of service. So adapting to different circumstances comes natural to Virgo. Virgo wants to help, so Virgo may put aside their own, goals and commitments to help their partner. This can lead sometimes to codependency if the other person, especially if the other person, in this case the Scorpio person, is, I was going to say, a bad actor. So hopefully, the Virgo person's listening to this if they have a bad actor Scorpio, not the other way around. But when I say bad actor in relationships, sometimes there are, unfortunately, dynamics where one person is in it and committed and wants to make it work, and the other person is just a taker. They're just, in the relationship for what they can get from it. And this is, in some cases, we could characterize this as narcissistic behavior where there isn't that empathy for what they're doing, and they're just trying to, get what they can. But also, a lot of times, there's even that desire to create, negative emotions. And why do they do that? There's a energy vampire quality to narcissists. A Scorpio person can be very dangerous. And this is not, we're not talking about every Scorpio, because some Scorpios are very high-minded. But the ones who are unscrupulous are going to use their brilliant uh, insight into human nature to manipulate other people, the other person. So they will be able to see right away that the Virgo person is insecure, is trying to curry favor, and they will mess with their mind because they have that ability, and they may use manipulative things to kind of like trigger maybe like guilt in that Virgo person, maybe confusion, saying, kind of like what gaslighting is, causing the Virgo person to doubt themselves, and knowing that that Virgo person is already is already like somebody who doubts themselves. And this just kind of makes it even worse. So, in those types of relationships, the Virgo person has to be able to see sooner rather than later that this is occurring so that they can extricate themselves from that relationship. Because, of course, the longer you stay in those relationships, the harder it gets to leave because you become more uh, immersed in that other person's behavior. And you might have a child with that person before you understand what they're doing, what their game is. And then it makes it very complicated because then you have, even if you separate from that person, you still share that child. And if they are a narcissist, they will use that child to get to you. So that is the danger. On the flip side, sometimes a Virgo person can resemble a Gemini person, maybe because of that rulership with Mercury. Not every sign is a textbook sign that they go along with the attributes of their sign. I remember reading about Virgo that some Virgos are messy. They're known for being fastidious, for being very organized, but they were talking about how some are actually the exact opposite. And I can't remember why they say that would happen, but I think it's safe to say that it probably stems from rebellion due to trauma of some sort. So, regardless of what sign a person is, if they have experienced trauma, that can kind of turn everything upside down, and even the things that they normally would be interested in or good at, that would come naturally to them, they may reject them because they are, if it has something to do with their parents and whatnot. So, for instance, if a Virgo child is mercilessly criticized growing up and they felt self-conscious, they were hard on themselves, they might get to a certain part where they say, screw this, screw them. I'm not trying to impress them anymore. And they just kind of like lose that. But it's almost like this overreaction where they go the opposite way and then they completely, maybe they drop out of school, high school or college, and just completely live the life that they feel like would, upset their parents the most, and they might not be doing it consciously, and it might not be that they're trying to hurt their parents or make their parents upset, but simply that they're rejecting the values of their parents. And this is what happens when you have authoritarian parents, is that it tends to lead to rebellion at some point. So even a Virgo person can rebel, and that can mean that the Scorpio person, who is might be more consistent because they're a fixed sign, may notice that the Virgo person can be inconsistent. Now, this is not going to be true across the board. There are Virgo people that are very organized, disciplined, and scheduled. You know, that's what I really mean by organized. They're very good at time management. I would wager that the majority of Virgos fit into this category. But the ones who don't may still be born on the sign of Virgo, and they may be a little bit less likely. Or, you know, people can have ADD no matter if they're Virgos or not. And if they are Virgos and have ADD, they're not going to be as naturally organized as their brothers and sister Virgos who are, you know, very like scheduled. But I think that, like I said, both of these signs can help the other in, you know, where that person may lack certain natural abilities, and it can be a good complement to that person. And so anyway, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.